Hey everyone, welcome to part 25 of my no armor, no ranged weapon, fist only and no deaths playthrough of Demon Souls. Following on from part 24, I'm right at the door to the Maneater boss in the upper Latria area. Before fighting the boss, I just wanted to check that I had the best possible setup for it. And by setup, I really mean what rings I'm wearing, since I'm not wearing any armor and the only weapon I'm using are the claws for fists. And really, I was only left with a choice of the Ring of Magical Dullness and the Thief Ring. The Ring of Magical Dullness to reduce the damage from any of the Maneater's magic attacks, and the Thief Ring for a little bit of stealth to maybe keep one of the Maneaters away from me and allow me to just fight the other one, as I pretty much thought fighting two Maneaters at once with fist only would be way too dangerous. Fortunately, you only have to fight one at the start of the fight. The second one turns up later. So as you can see, I really wanted to fight the Maneater up at the end here near the entrance. I just felt comfortable here. I didn't think I would fall off here if I could just dodge its rush attack over and over again. However, the problem with the Maneaters is they like to fly up in the air, and with fists that means there's absolutely nothing I can do except wait until it comes back down onto the ground. And in this case, as you can see, it just doesn't want to do that. Finally. My only real concern with this fight is getting knocked off the edges, and it's probably a little bit safer to fight the Maneater up near the middle. However, I wanted to fight it here, just in case by moving further up I would attract the second Maneater in. I wasn't sure, I didn't actually know whether or not the second Maneater came in at a certain damage level, or whether you could attract the second Maneater in by proceeding further into the boss area. So just in case it was the latter, I wanted to fight this one, the first one, right near the entrance and not really go out any further. But then suddenly the second one just turned up, so that strategy didn't work. So I assume he turns up after a certain amount of damage. Judging by the health bar of the bottom Maneater, I would say he turns up after you've taken a third of the first Maneater's health off. That would be my guess. The good news was, as soon as I arrived at the center here, the second Maneater just wandered off. It lost sight of me, and I'm guessing because I'm wearing the Thief Ring. So that meant if I went back to my original strategy of fighting near the entrance, there was no way I was going to be attracting the second Maneater in, and I could just focus and deal with the first one and the first one alone. Which sounded good in theory until I went really casual about it and tried to pick up an item, and yeah, then he hit me twice and a third would have killed me. So that almost went bad just because I went a little bit casual with the fight. Here I thought he had lost sight of me because of the Thief Ring, so I had to move closer to him to attract his attention. I was hoping I wasn't going to attract the attention of the second one, but then I saw the second one down the other end and I thought, well, if I can't attract the attention of the first one, then I guess I'll just go and kill the second one. But I did, so I went back to the first one. I did have a concern of being knocked off these walkways. The pillars provided a little bit of a barrier. I think when he knocked me a minute ago, he knocked me into one of the pillars instead of off. So there was a little bit of added security there, but there's plenty of gaps between the pillars too. Really, all I could do about that was try to fight him in the middle of the walkway to increase the distance between me and either side of the walkway, just in case I got bumped left or right. But as you can see, it wasn't me going off the side of the walkway, it was the boss, constantly, and then flying away. Not much I can do about that. Normally I would have been pretty annoyed about that, because it slows the boss fight down a lot. But given I was trying to do this without dying and with fists only, I was kind of happy to have the breaks in between engaging the boss to just relax, chill out, and center myself. Well, to a degree. As long as it was being a complete idiot, it was a bit annoying. I knew this fight was going to take ages, just by nature of the fact that I was going to be doing it with fists and fists alone, but I really didn't think the boss would just be hovering in the air for most of the fight. I didn't think that would be the reason why this would take so long. Here, once again, I decided, alright, I'll go and I'll fight the other one instead, but yet again, the moment I made that decision, this one knew, and it was back onto me. Pretty funny that, actually. What I was trying to do was get to its back to cut off its tail. If I could cut off its tail, then I would turn this into a melee fight. So that was my objective here. Not very easy to do with fists though, to get behind it and cut off its tail, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. The difficulty with getting its tail is it would always be landing in a position that if I was to roll to its side and got bumped, I could be knocked off the walkway. So the only way to get to its tail, the only time I could get to its tail was when there was a good position for me to roll to its back after an attack. But it kept doing all the wrong type of attacks, it kept jumping back, kept flying into the air. Yeah, it really didn't want me to get to its tail. Honestly, the biggest challenge in this fight wasn't so much the boss, but it was just being patient with the boss's shenanigans. So here I thought the thief ring was really working against me because the boss kept losing me, so I decided to replace it with the regenerator's ring. I wasn't sure if that would attract the second Maneater in, but I was kind of willing to take the risk at this stage given how slowly this was going. This was an opportunity to get to its tail, and I kind of stuck around a little bit longer. I took a risk putting damage on. Not too much of a risk, but a little bit of a risk. I really wanted to cut that tail off. If I could cut the tail off, it would be doing less of its ranged magic attacks like that, and it would be more likely to be trying to melee attack me. And my favourite move of its is its pounce. It's dangerous if it hits you, but if you dodge it, you always get the opportunity to get some hits in from behind after the fact. So I really wanted it to not have its tail, so it would be pouncing at me more often. And there, finally, got rid of its tail. So from this point forward, it would be more of a melee match. And I figured that might also mean it will fly away less. And there it went again. But this time I thought, well, it'll probably come back and land faster than it was doing before because it has less ranged attacks it can do. And sure enough, it came back and landed straight away. Yeah, there was no doubt about it. As soon as I cut off that Maneater's tail, the rest of his health went down so much quicker than it had before that. So my goal was to cut the tail off this one as a priority. Unfortunately, I managed to cut it off right from the start. That's the worst thing about the fists, is so many times when you swing your fists it just connects with nothing. You just swing straight through the enemy. Happens a lot. You know, this is actually a really cool fight to do with fists once you cut the Maneater's tail off. And when the Maneater actually lands on the ground and isn't flying around in the air like an idiot. It's actually really cool because all of the Maneater's attacks, they can be dodged, providing your reaction is swift and you time it well. So it makes it actually quite fun to do, especially when you add in the extra layer of being conscious of your surroundings. You know, making sure that you dodge and you move and where you stand is always in a position that is away from the edge, so that if you do get hit you don't get knocked off. When you add that in and you add fists only as your challenge, it kind of makes it a multi-layered fight to think about. It's pretty cool. I like it. In runs like this, there's something about knowing that if you make one slight mistake and you fall to your death, that your run is over. It just makes the whole thing that much more exciting. It's like playing on a knife's edge. Every second, even when you're calm and relaxed, every second could be a second that you make a slight mistake and die, and that's the end of your playthrough. I kind of like that pressure. Not always. Sometimes I like games to be easy, but in this particular fight, yeah, I admit I was really thriving on it. I remember thinking, seriously? At this point, when he was just going back and forward. Like he was stuck in a loop of, nope, I don't want to engage. I don't want to fight you. I'm just not going to participate. I actually checked here to see if I had the thief ring on. I couldn't remember which 2 rings I'd put on earlier, so I wanted to make sure I didn't have the thief ring on, in case that was the reason why he kept flying away. But it wasn't. It's just he's an idiot. So there I put on the Ring of Avarice to get more souls from slaying an enemy, since my rings weren't really doing anything for this fight, so I thought, well, I may as well get something out of it after all of this. You know, in hindsight, I might even do this fight next time without cutting off their tails. Without their tails, they're more inclined to melee, but they're also more inclined to do that big leaping forward move, which tends to throw them off the edge, just like that, and then they go into flight mode again. Whereas if they have their tail, they'll do that leaping move less. I think that it'll make it a little harder to get melee hits on them, but it might make the fight go faster just the same if they're not leaping off the edge all the time. Here I decided to put the thief ring back on in the hope that it would lose sight of me, lose track of me, and maybe land again, enabling me to run up and get it from behind. But I also wanted the Ring of Magical Dullness on still, which I'd accidentally taken off, just in case it hit me with its magic. Of course it would take off into the air again with like 1 hit remaining. Of course it would. Finally. For a minute there I thought this was going to break the record for the longest boss fight so far, but the old hero maintains that record with 21 minutes, which means this one went for about the same length as the Phalanx boss fight. Would have been a different story though if I'd done this world as one of my earlier worlds. With lower damage output and bare fists, this fight almost certainly would have been the longest of them all. I'm really glad I came here later.
I've not seen you of late. I have some precious news. Well, do as you please. But do not come a-crying later.
Thou seekest the power, then touch the soul of the mind, key to life.
With leveling up this time, I really wasn't sure where I wanted to put my souls. I had pretty much decided at this stage of my playthrough I was going to continually spread them amongst vitality, endurance and strength. But after the Maneater fight, I also considered going just pure strength, just so I could do more damage in these fights and make them go a little faster. But I couldn't really think of a boss from this point forward that could possibly be as slow and long-winded as the Maneater fight was. So I thought maybe I'll just go with vitality and strength, or just strength. But then I hadn't really had much problems with my health either. I'd had a lot of close calls, but I felt like my vitality was still pretty good at this point. And so was my endurance, and to be honest, I felt like I was doing enough damage too, really. I mean, it wasn't great damage, but it was enough. I wasn't unhappy with it, so I ended up just deciding I'll keep spreading my souls amongst those 3 attributes from this point forward, unless for some reason I need to change it.
I can forge weapons for you. Do come back alive. I need your business.
Also, throughout the entire playthrough, I hadn't spoken to any of these NPCs. I didn't think I needed to, because, I mean, I wasn't going to be using any magic, I didn't need any spells. There wasn't none of that I required, so yeah, speaking to all of these NPCs just seemed like a bit of a waste of time. But I thought I'd better speak to them anyway, just in case there's something I've forgotten, like one of them hands out a quest that I didn't know about or something. But yeah,
I'm impressed.
when you're not really worried about upgrading other weapons or using spells or doing anything like that, you don't really need to worry about those NPCs as far as I'm aware. So that meant I could go back to the Ivory Tower Archstone with just one area of this world to do, one area of the Tower of Latria to do, and that was a very short path up to the boss, the Old Monk. But we're at the 23-minute mark, so we'll continue this on in the next part. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.